Not every story you hear is made up. Some are whispered in gas stations, left on voicemail tapes, or told by people who never slept the same again. Tonight, you'll hear some of them. Welcome to the dark side of true stories. You ever have a feeling something's wrong, but it's too quiet to explain? That's how it started. That night still haunts me. Me and my buddy Sean had been driving for hours. We were coming back from a hiking trip out west. Middle of nowhere, middle of the night. Somewhere off a 2-lane highway in Oregon. We were both exhausted. Eyes burning, heads aching. So when we saw that flickering red motel sign on the side of the road, it felt like a gift. The parking lot was empty. Not a single car, not even a bike. The office was closed, lights off, door locked. But taped to the glass was this note. It said, "Room 6, doors unlocked, welcome." That was it. No name, no price, no one around. Just a barely legible scrawl and a key symbol drawn in black ink. Sean looked at me and went, "This is sketchy as hell." And yeah, it was. But we were so tired. It was 1:38 a.m. I remember the clock in the car. We figured worst case we nap for a few hours, then leave at dawn. So we grabbed our bags and went up the concrete stairs. Everything smelled like mildew and rust. You could hear the wind blowing something metal against the railing. Clink, clink, clink. Room 6 was at the far end. Door already cracked open like someone had just walked in. Inside it was weird. Not dirty, not really, but old. Off, like no one had touched anything in decades. There was a bed with a floral comforter, a dusty lamp, a dresser with the bottom drawer open, and the TV, one of those ancient CRTs, was already on. Static, no volume. Sean went, "Nope, TV's going off. I'm not waking up to the ring girl crawling out at 3 a.m. He laughed. I laughed too. But I didn't feel like laughing. Something about that room made my stomach twist. It was cold. Way too cold for summer. And the corners, the ones behind the wardrobe, under the table, looked darker than they should have, like shadows where light didn't belong. We brushed our teeth in silence. There was a weird echo in the bathroom, like when you speak and it doesn't bounce off the walls. It just kind of dies. noticed it because I said something to Sean, and it sounded off, like my voice got sucked into the tiles. We went to sleep around 2:15. He took the bed. I crashed on top of the covers with a hoodie. I didn't even realize I'd drifted off until the noise woke me up. Click, 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 like someone flipping a light switch. Over and over, not fast, just slow. Click, click. I sat up. Sean was out cold, back turned to me, snoring lightly. I looked toward the bathroom. The door was shut, but the light inside was flicking on and off. Not like a bulb dying, like someone was standing there, turning it on, waiting, then off again. I whispered, "Sean." No response. I stood up and took a step forward, but the light stopped flicking and stayed off. The second I reached the handle, the sink turned on, just full blast. I flinched back and waited, then slowly opened the door. Nothing. Sink off. Light off. Just cold, damp air, like someone had showered and not toweled off the mirror. I walked back to the bed, heart pounding. Tried to convince myself I dreamt it. Tried to sleep. 3:03 a.m. I remember because my phone lit up on the dresser. Even though it had been turned off, it buzzed once. One notification. Unknown number. Message preview. Why are you here? I blinked. Swore I was imagining it. I reached for the phone. Screen went black before I could unlock it. Battery 1%, then dead. Sean was still asleep. I whispered, "Dude, wake up." Still nothing. Then I heard breathing, but it wasn't Sean. It was coming from the other side of the room. A low, rasping inhale, exhale, like someone who hadn't breathed fresh air in a long time. I turned my head, slowly, afraid of what I'd see. And there in the corner, the one next to the dresser, I saw something move. Just a ripple in the shadow, something pulling back like it had just been seen. I grabbed my bag and tossed a shoe at Sean. He finally woke up. "What the?" I didn't wait. I said, "We're leaving. Now." He must have seen my face, pale, sweaty, shaking, because he didn't argue. We left everything behind. As we ran down the stairs, the hallway lights started flickering, like they were reacting to us. And just as we reached the bottom step, I heard the loud slam of our room door above. like something wanted to make sure it was shut tight. We got into the car and took off, fast. Didn't speak for 10 minutes. Then Sean said, "You saw it too, didn't you? The shape in the corner." I just nodded. And when we got to the next gas station, one of those 24-hour diners attached, we asked if they knew the place. The woman at the counter looked at us, confused. That motel, that place burned down years ago. We didn't say anything, just stood there, silent, shaking. Then she said, "But people still ask about it. Always around this time of year. I haven't driven that stretch of road since. I don't even know if it's still there. But sometimes, when I'm falling asleep, I hear it again. Click, 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 like something trying to finish what it started." They say silence is peaceful. That's only true if you haven't had the kind that watches you back. Okay, so this was back in October, the last warm weekend before everything froze over. Me and my friend, Eli, you've met him, we decided to get away from the city. No phones, no emails, just trees, beers, and quiet. Eli found this Airbnb cabin in the woods about 2 hours from here, middle of nowhere. The ad said it was perfect for disconnecting. Well, it was, in the worst way. It looked pretty normal when we got there. A little A-frame house tucked deep into the forest, like one of those places you'd see on Pinterest. The driveway was just a dirt path, no lights, no neighbors, just trees on all sides. It had this kind of too quiet vibe, even during the day. No birds, no wind, like nature had hit pause. I remember Eli joked like, "Dude, we're either gonna get murdered or possessed in this place." I laughed. But I swear, the second we stepped inside, I already felt off. The air smelled like damp wood and cold stone. Not bad, just old. And there was this weird thing about the floor. It creaked behind you, like you'd walk into the kitchen, stop, and then hear another step behind you. We thought maybe it was the cabin settling, or mice, or whatever. We unpacked, made a fire, had a couple beers. Everything felt chill. Until about 2 a.m. That's when we first heard it. We were in our rooms, lights off, just messing on our phones. And from somewhere outside, not close, but not far either, we heard this sound. Not a coyote, not a fox, something low and wet, like a growl being dragged across gravel. It didn't sound like it came from an animal. It stopped, then started again, like it was circling the cabin, always at the edge of hearing, and then silence. Eli texted me from the room next door, "Did you hear that?" I replied, "Yeah, probably just an animal." And I wanted to believe that. I did. Next morning we found tracks outside. They weren't hoof prints or paws or boots. It was like long, draggy impressions in the dirt, almost like something had been pulling itself along. And in the middle of the track, 2 deep dots, like fingertips. I told Eli it was probably a raccoon. He didn't say anything. The second night was worse. It started with this faint knocking sound from under the floorboards, like someone tapping a single finger slowly, rhythmically, from inside the crawl space. And every now and then, it would stop, move, and start again in a different part of the house. We checked under the cabin, nothing, except one thing, a broken lantern shattered like it had been thrown, and it wasn't ours. Later that night, around 3 a.m., I got up to pee. I didn't want to wake Eli, so I went without turning on the lights. But as I walked past the little window near the hallway, I swear to you, I saw something crouched just beyond the tree line, not standing, not walking, just low to the ground, like a spider or something. It didn't move, but I felt it watching me, and it was pale, almost white, no fur, no clothes, just skin and long arms bent in ways that didn't look right, like it was waiting. I backed away and locked myself in the bathroom, stayed there until sunrise. Eli didn't sleep at all that night. He'd been hearing breathing outside his window, not deep human breathing. It was shallow, fast, almost like a dog panting, but too steady, too controlled. We agreed. We leave in the morning, but the forest had other plans. Our car battery was dead. It was fully charged the day before. The engine clicked Then nothing, and our phones dead, both of them, despite being at 70% the night before. That's when I remembered there was a radio in the cabin. Old analog thing, probably from the 90s. I ran back inside and guess what? It was on. We hadn't touched it once, and it was tuned to some dead static station, just hissing. But every few seconds, there'd be this click, like a tongue against teeth. Then a voice, barely a whisper. Don't go. I turned it off, but even when I unplugged it, it stayed on for another 5 seconds. Then went silent. Eli grabbed a kitchen knife. I had a flashlight. That's all we had. We started walking. No map, no signal, just trees. And that feeling like something was walking just behind us. But every time we turned around, there was nothing. After what felt like hours, we saw a road, a real paved road, and a pickup truck came by maybe 5 minutes later. We flagged it down like maniacs. The driver, this old guy, looked at us real weird. We told him we'd rented the Airbnb out in the woods and needed a ride back to town. He stared at us for a second, then said, "That old cabin?" We nodded. That place has been empty for years. They pulled the listing after that hiker went missing back in '97. I asked him what he meant. He didn't answer, just told us not to go back. We didn't. I still don't know what we saw out there, or what was in the forest with us. But sometimes, when it's really late, and I'm lying in bed, staring into the dark corner of my room, I hear that same low knock under the floor. Always slow, always patient, waiting. Are you sure you're alone right now? Rent one of those Airbnbs that just looks a little too perfect in the photos, like someone staged it to look real, but it isn't. Yeah, that's how this started. It was me, my brother Evan, and a couple of our friends, Jamie and Lex. We were road tripping upstate that summer. No signal, no city noise. Just woods, trails, and quiet. We wanted somewhere remote to crash for the weekend. We found this A-frame cabin on Airbnb. off-grid, set at a working fireplace in a, quote, vintage charm, and it was weirdly cheap for the season. I remember saying, "This feels too good to be true," but the photos looked clean, and the reviews, all 5 stars, were there. Strangely short though. Stuff like "loved it," "quiet stay," "would come again." No guest photos, no real details, just a bunch of copy-pasted praise. But we booked it anyway. We pulled up just after sunset. The road that led to it was a single narrow gravel strip. No lights, no fences, just tall trees on both sides, pressing in like walls. When the cabin came into view, it looked frozen in time, like someone dropped it there in the 60s and forgot about it. Wood panels, green trim windows, and smoke curling out of the chimney, but there were no lights on. The lockbox was stuck. We had to wedge it open with the back of a screwdriver. Inside was one big metal key, one of those old-timey ones, like for a diary chest. There were no instructions, no check-in binder. Inside smelled like old cedar and damp carpet. It wasn't dirty, just unused, like a place kept in limbo. The living room had this stone fireplace, a creaky coffee table, and the heavy velvet curtains that didn't quite close all the way. Upstairs had 2 tiny bedrooms. The ground floor had a 3rd, plus a kitchenette the size of a closet. It felt almost too quiet inside. That first night we made pasta, played Uno, cracked beers. It was chill. Evan lit a fire and we talked until maybe 11:30. Lex and Jamie headed upstairs. I stayed down with Evan. I went to brush my teeth and that's when I noticed it. The hallway rug was slightly off-center. Not enough to seem accidental, but like it had been moved and not properly fixed. So I tugged it back, and that's when I saw the trapdoor. Small, maybe 3 by 3 feet, made of rough old planks and set with a big iron ring. It blended perfectly with the floorboards, but up close the wood was darker, rotted. No mention of this in the listing, no photos, no warning. I called Evan over. "Dude, was this here earlier?" He stared at it, rubbed his jaw. "Probably just a crawl space or sump access or something. These old places have weird bones." We almost opened it then and there, but Jamie shouted from upstairs that we were being loud, and we left it for the next day. That night, I had this dream. At least, I hope it was a dream. I was lying in bed, staring up at the ceiling fan, slowly spinning, and I could hear something underneath the floor. Not pipes, not animals. Something moving, dragging, like wet rope over wood. Thump. I woke up in a cold sweat. The fan wasn't on anymore, but the floor under my bed was creaking. No, not creaking, flexing, like something was pressing against it from below. I stared at the ceiling, barely breathing, and then, I swear, I felt something brush the underside of the mattress. Not hard, just enough to say, I'm here. I sat bolt upright and stared into the dark. It was completely still, no sound, no movement. Eventually, I convinced myself I'd imagined it. But I didn't sleep again. The next morning, Evan made coffee. I told him everything. He laughed. Man, you've watched too many horror movies. But I didn't laugh. Jamie and Lex went hiking after breakfast. Evan offered to go, but I told him I was staying back, said I wasn't feeling great. Truth was, I couldn't stop thinking about that door. After they left, I pulled the rug back again. Same door, same iron ring. I gripped it, braced my feet and pulled. It groaned loud, like metal on wet wood, and opened with a jerk. Beneath it was darkness, not shadow, void. The smell hit me immediately, wet dirt, mold, and something foul, like meat that had rotted in the heat, then frozen. I turned on my phone flashlight and leaned over. The beam didn't reach the bottom, but just as I started to pull back, two small reflections blinked up at me. Eyes, round, far apart, low to the ground. I dropped the trap door hard. It slammed shut and bounced once. I put the rug back and didn't move for 20 minutes, just sat on the floor staring. That night, the air felt heavier, almost humid. We were sitting in the living room again. TV didn't work, so we just had music playing from someone's phone. And then the lights flickered. Once, twice. Blackout, total silence. We thought it was a power cut until the floor thumped beneath us. Boom, boom, boom. Then, scratching from underneath the trapdoor. Evan looked at me and said, "Is this you screwing with me?" I just shook my head. We heard it shift, like something crawling up to the door. Then a cough. No, more like a wheeze, like a throat trying to relearn breathing. Then slam. The trapdoor burst open. The rug flew aside. We all jumped to our feet, shouting, but no one went near it. There was a shape in there, just inside, not quite crawling out, but visible enough Thin fingers curled over the wood, too long, too many joints, like they'd been broken and healed wrong. And then it smiled. I didn't see a face, but I felt it smile, like heat under the skin. We grabbed our shit, didn't even put our shoes on, ran barefoot through the woods to the car. As we peeled out, Jamie glanced back through the rear window. "Guys, the trapdoor is still open." And someone was standing just inside the doorway, watching, tall, too tall. The next morning, I tried reporting the listing, but it was gone, just vanished. No record of the cabin, no host name, no message history, nothing. And you know what really messes with me? Every so often, late at night, I still hear it. That wet, dragging sound, like something looking for a new floor to live under. If you're still listening, maybe you're one of us now. We don't sleep much either. So when the night gets quiet again, come back. Subscribe. We'll be waiting.
The air is heavy, thick with time. A ghost of whispers haunts my mind. Shadows whisper secrets deep in the corners where they creep. What they know they'll never say, but they're watching